The Truth app writes, do you believe Donald Trump will send military to Mexico to go to war with the cartel? Probably more likely special forces if it gets to that, but I don't think he will because truth be told, that's a hard battle to win. You guys may remember I told you about a story when I was in La Ciudad and I was staying, I think it was a JW Marriott, and my assistant and I were staying there, and we just noticed a couple peculiarities. Number one, that the hotel was mostly empty, right? So we had this gorgeous hotel, pretty much completely empty, but there was a lot of security around, like a lot. And I went up to one floor thinking it was my floor, and I got out and I noticed there was guys like stationed ever so often on the floor. And I'm walking down. Eventually, someone stopped, like, "Hey, where are you going?" I was like, "To my room." He was like, "Your room is not on this floor." I was like, "Nah, yeah, it is." He was like, "No, no, no, it's not, because we don't have anyone staying on this floor. Your room's not on this floor." I was like, "Yeah, but," I was about to check. He's like, "No, no, you don't need to. It's not. Just go that way." I go get back on the elevator, go back down to the lobby, talk to the front desk guy. He was like, "Oh, I apologize. You're here." And when I talked to the front desk guy, I said, "Hey, man, what's going on in this mug?" He says, confidentially, I forget who exactly it was like the mayor or the governor, somebody in politics that the cartel had been trying to kill. I forget who it was. And he had told me that there, this person was driving through in a motorcade, this politician in Mexico. It might be like the head of security, the head of armed forces. I don't know who. I can't recall right now. If you go back in the history, you can find me talking about it. But he had a motorcade going down the street, right, in Mexico City. And these fools in the cartel had all dressed as construction workers. They had even excavated a big hole, like a big trench in the street. And they were doing real construction work, which was not needed, but only for their cover. They're doing legit construction work. And then when the motorcade is coming by, they hop out and start letting off on this particular official. So, I mean, they do real hits, man. They do real hits, assassinations. Mexican cartels survived everything. And they bullied the Mexican government very effectively. They either infiltrate it or bully it. And so the fact of the matter is that if he were to go in and try to dislodge them, special forces can get some hits done and they can get some work done. But to really dislodge these guys, you're going to have to send in more than special forces. And it will have to be outright war on the order of what you saw in the Philippines under Duterte or what you saw in Malaysia under Mahathir, which was some time ago. You have to check the history on that. So it would have to be a war against drugs, but in a literal sense. And frankly, I don't think that Trump has it in him to do that. I don't think that that's going to reflect well on the Mexican government. They got a woman in there, a Jewish woman. So I think that she's going to not want to let him overstep that bound. And so I don't think that's going to happen. He writes, if so, do you think that the Mexican residents will love Trump for making their country safe? Hell nah. Because you got to remember, I think it's called rancheras. Is it, some of my Mexicans in the audience, let me know. Is it called rancheras corridos? I forget what it's called, but it's like you have this music that itself is dedicated to the cartels. It's basically Mexican trap music, but it's singing. You feel me? And you guys got to forgive me for the cough, unfortunately. And this is why I hate being around humans, because they live with such low standards. As soon as I get to the airport, all these freaking people around me coughing. I'm like, God damn, if you motherfuckers would work out, you wouldn't be sick all the time. That's right, corridos. So anyways, they have entire genres of music just talking about the dope boys who are legends. And the other thing that you have to consider is that they take care of their hood. They are the government in their hood, right? So if you're a Sinaloa cartel, you're going to take care of the people in Sinaloa, right? You're going to take care of your people. The Sinaloa cartel army has people opting in, has people that are well financed, have people who are really about that life and they're true believers. Whereas if you're looking at a Mexican army or a American army, these are people who are conscripted. These are people who are being paid peanuts. These are people who are not real believers. And so they're easy to bribe. They're not going to fight with vigor. You know, it's just a different thing. So I don't think that it's an easy war to win. And I don't think it's a war that Trump is going to want to get involved in. And it will be bloody because the thing about the Mexican cartels, they're not Pablo Escobar. Pablo fought and caught an L, but Pablo was one guy with one organization. The cartels are various organizations and various guys, really, family controlled, and they always fight. And sometimes they fight together. You hear me? I don't think they're going to try to take that L. I think the cartel is like, hey, we'd rather bathe this place in blood than give it up. I don't think they're giving it up. And you guys got to remember as well, like the cartel is different, man. Like El Chapo got took down. They ain't miss a beat. You hear me? And remember, they created an underground tunnel with a conveyance, like a little train car, essentially, and electricity, and it was lit and air conditioned. Come on, man. It's different. It's different. Like it's super different. I don't think they can be dislodged. I mean, not without a lot of blood. And frankly, I don't think a female leader is going to get it done. I don't think Trump can get it done. You really have to have some real dedicated savages in Mexico, in Mexican government, who literally are of the belief that there's no amount of blood that's going to stop me. It has to be somebody like that. It has to be somebody that's like, look, I'm willing for everything to die. I don't care. We going in. It has to be somebody like that. Somebody that's a little thrown off. Acknowledge Charles. He writes, what do you think about the El Salvadorian president did to all the gangs in his country? The Mexican cartel is built different. Well, we don't know how effective he was, but from the news reports, it sounds like he did his thing. And, congratulations to him. Drugs are a terrible thing. But to be honest with you, if I was running any of these Latin American nation states or even Afghanistan, if we're creating a product for export, I'm more so in the position of Emmanuel Noriega, which is to say that if we're going to export the cocaine, if we're going to export it to markets like the US and it's not being consumed domestically, frankly, I don't care, because my priority is my country. And if they can make some money off of the coca leaf, go ahead, have at it. And if they're not consuming it, I'd be more focused on that. So I would tell the public and the international community that we're trying to stop it. I would allow the cartels to operate and export, but I'd have very draconian punishments for consumption domestically. If that makes sense to you guys, I hope you understand what I'm saying. May I acknowledge Miles? He writes, you are 100% right about the cartels, Mr. Burton. If the Mexican government isn't willing to do what El Salvador did, it literally won't happen. Mexicans today stick together more than whites do. I mean, of course. I mean, Mexicans have strong families. They really do have. I mean, listen, in my experience, a lot of my best friends have been Mexican just because our values are so similar and the loyalty. And that's how Mexicans actually are in real life. You see what I'm saying? So, of course, their families are tighter than white people's families. You kidding me? And that's why they succeed, because they can live 10 people to a house when they get to America. They'll work their butt off. And the next thing you know is 10 different people with 10 different mansions. They can do that. They have great family values. Now, obviously, things are getting real weird in Mexico because they have a Jewish female running the country. It's getting ugly. He writes, they won't sell out the cartels, and the hierarchy of the cartel is too organized. And they also have infiltrated government over decades, right? He writes, ruthless, plentiful in numbers, correct. What's even crazier is that there are American city mayors that are defending and trying to save illegal immigrants. Yeah, there you go. Sometimes there's only one. I heard a philosopher once say, the only way to change my mind is to blow my brains out. And that's a fact. Some people, that's the only way to change their mind. You got to literally change their mind. Trump will soon find out his fight will have to go beyond his term, and that this fight is 10x harder than he thought. Them Dems truly set him up for failure. Well, you know what? Yeah, I mean, these are those times to where you understand why Vladimir Putin has been positioned in the way that he's been positioned. You understand why China's successful, because they have continuity in leadership and continuity in plan. That's the only reason that Cuba even exists, is because Fidel was ruling for so long. He was able to deal with long-term strategy while the American administration was changing and changing policy. So, it'd be different. Shout out to Kendall. He writes, this may be a topic for a live only. He writes, but how can we learn from the cartel? For real, though. We should be as hard to displace as they are. Peace of Saints. See you in Nam. You know, the key is infiltration. The cartel has infiltrated government widely, and also the information flow is very good. And that happens because it's backed by a strong business. And so that's why I always encourage you guys to be strong in business, because you really need capital for anything that you're going to do. But that infiltration, one of the beauties of our movement is that you have, say, people, you have nations that are mostly based on ethnicity and race. And race you can see. So it's harder for people to infiltrate. For example, if I wanted to go infiltrate China, it'd be very obvious, like, oh, he's not one of us. If I want to go infiltrate Russia, he's not one of us. But the saints are of every religion, every ethnicity, every race. So we can infiltrate anything and no one would even know. That's one of our advantages, which we will use. And I can tell you this, man, I've been so many places and been conducting business, and then somebody look at me and they're like, piece of the saints. And I'm like, okay, we locked in out here. True story. I went to go change my ticket with Qatar, because when my assistant rebooked me, she moved my flight up, and they didn't maintain my premium seat. And so I was going to them like, hey, I need my premium seat. I paid extra for this. And I was talking to one person, another guy walks up and he was like, hey, man, I love your stuff, piece of the saints. And he works for Qatar. So I think a lot of times we're going to be infiltrated like that. It's just a matter of utilizing those connections, organizing and training people. And in 2025, we'll see a lot of training coming out, a lot of training, really get people's mindset right, making sure everyone's militant and gamed up and knows how to move and operate. That's the key. Thank you for that question. And that's the right question. You see, Kendall's asking the right questions. Marquettdavon writes, so why do you support Donald Trump? Do you feel he will change these things? No, I don't think he's going to change these things, but I do believe the economy will be better. And as a person with significant assets, I would like to see my assets grow in value.